This is a very hard topic to touch base on, to even publicize it, because it's about myself and about my child. I've been dealing with this issue of negligence from my co-parent since almost practically since the birth of my child. It's really severe that so many people have been damaged and harmed, including myself, my child, his siblings, even my son's mother too as well, the respondent to this petition. There's been multiple cases between me and the respondent of negligence, of trying to get custody, restraining orders, back to back, just conflict after conflict after conflict. And it's so strenuous to the point that it's left like severe PTSD on me and my child. I've tried to get help multiple times, which led to only further harm to my child. Again, it's really hard to talk about, so I'm currently going public about my situation with my son. I've been dealing with corruption and negligence from family court and CPS for a long time now, even as well as negligence from my own son's mother, who has perpetrated retaliation against me, fraud, etc. It's continuous conflicts of perjury, deception, manipulation, basically lying and construing stories, events, etc. Basically trying to hinder investigations, hinder efforts to get my son therapy, hinder efforts to get my son evaluated, etc. Basically, my case derives from a long time ago trying to petition for custody because my son's mother has been basically acting negligent since almost the beginning of his birth. I had to petition custody long ago because there were many threats that were involved surrounding my son's life, pertaining to his siblings' parents, and they were basically making threats upon me and my son's mother. And so I had to make petition because the mother wasn't doing her job, you know, with care and consideration to the children's safety. And so that's kind of like a backstory where it originated. I came to family court for assistance and help for protection for my child. They inherently just ignored me continuously. They even started retaliating against me. Because I was being stalked by these people, I requested a restraining order, and our judiciary at the time, who was Joseph Huber, he basically said, go across the street to civil court. And we went across the street to civil court requesting these restraining orders. And once I got back to family court informing them about what had happened and transpired, our judiciary got upset and basically had a tantrum inside court saying, this is supposed to go in my court, this is supposed to be under like his jurisdiction, etc. But we already went to him with that intent to get protection for me and my child. You know, so we were in disbelief and just baffled how things transpired after this. After this, it was just retaliation after retaliation, where our judiciary would retaliate against me. He even threatened once, basically, because I contested this truth, saying, hey, you told us to go to family court and you told us to go to civil court, and we did. We listened to your instructions, and now we're back, and you're damaging us and bashing us, me and my attorney, because we tried to get protection orders. He threatened me with contempt of court. I eventually had to fire my attorney because my attorney wasn't willing to actually make the push that I was. And there was so much conflict and danger that was going on around the child because I was being stalked, I was assaulted, etc., etc. There was so much turmoil, so much like conflict and inherent harm that was going around my life and around the child, that the judiciary threatened to take the child away from both of us as a parent. And I made it clear, I've tried my best to protect my child over and over and over again, trying to inform the family courts about what's been going on, and just continued to be ignored. So fast forward a few years later, I basically withdrew all my participation from family court. So fast forward a few years later, after they threw us out, like just physically threw us out, said, okay, you guys don't want to participate, you the father, you guys are all done, get out. And remember, I'm the original petitioning party, so I kind of hold like authority over the original moving papers. So when I revoked my participation, I was like, you guys basically are negligent and you guys have harmed my child. They just threw us out of court and that was it. So fast forward a few years later, we have a new judiciary who's named Andrea Flint. A lot of people know who she is because a lot of people have complained about her. I was the final stone that was basically hit on the head of this giant to have her removed from family court because of my petitions of claim against the county and my complaints against the county and negligence against DFCS, etc. So I've had to file multiple complaints to get to where I am today. And which a lot of people had to get talked to or, you know, basically rearranged, moved around, like Miss Andrea Flint, who's no longer currently in family court because of my actions. So fast forward a couple years to November 2022, I got a call from DFCS asking if I had any concerns for my son's safety inside my son's mother's care. And I made it clear of all my concerns of what has transpired in the past, how I've been assaulted, how I was stalked, how I had concerns because this man, named Anthony David Shelton, had twisted my son's arm, threw him inside my son's room, had him hyperventilate, and basically DFCS and the police cover it up. It's literally in reports where I state the police covered it up. So nobody had any consideration to do any further investigation, etc., etc. So I've been kind of repeating this story through segments over and over and over again. Even the fact to this agent, well, yeah, I have concerns of my son's sexuality that we even had to have him seen by a doctor. They didn't put that in reports at that time, but understand that following the conclusion of this, I made it clear I was concerned. I asked if somebody was hurt, and I was under at the time I was basically under lots of opiates from all the pain that I was enduring. I had a tube in my leg that was sticking out and draining blood and fluids, etc. I was under oxycodone at the time to basically endure all the pain. So I was under a severe amount of stress, and I made it clear, like, if my child is in danger, you gotta let me know. If my child's basically been harmed, you gotta let me know, like, what's going on? She was like, no, nobody was harmed. It was just basically a mere conflict, just a mere argument. And I said, okay, well, I'll try and further look into this, whether it's by pulling the records or talking to the police. Again, at the time, I was worried about my health. How can I worry about my child's health if I can't even worry about my own health? And I've been told specifically no one's been hurt. Fast forward again to March 2023. I basically get informed that we're going to be investigated by DFCS for the sexual molestation. Okay, so now fast forward to March of 2023, where I get informed that basically DFCS is investigating my child, basically about some issues that had happened and transpired. Well, my son's siblings, the mother's daughters, were in the care of their father. I originally thought it was for abuse. They show up and investigate my child, and I tell them clearly after they investigate that my child's lying. They said, how do you know? I said, because I'm his father. It's my job to know when my son's lying, and he's lying to you. Something had transpired. He's just not telling you. And so after they go to the room, they asked me, you know, what are my concerns? And I said, you know, I kind of like explained some of my concerns. And I said, so he's abusing the children? And then she said, no, it's about the other thing. And you know, my jaw dropped, and she's just like sitting there looking at me dumbfounded, and she was like, the investigation is about the girls though, it's not about the boys. And I said, you don't understand. I said, I've been worried about my child, you know, basically being a victim of sexual abuse for a while. I was like, me and the mother basically talked about it in October of 2020, and then later on, we ended up having the conversation with him over the phone. If somebody had been touching him, we had to coach him on his behavior. I said, we even had to have him seen by his doctor. You know, and I basically said, I've told this to the police, and I told this to DFCS. And so she's like, there's nothing in report, right? And so I was like, well, I told this to the DFCS agent. She asked if someone I asked if someone had gotten hurt, and she said no. And she was like, there was a full-blown investigation of domestic violence because the mom was basically getting abused, and that there was a psychological whatever. She was like, I think it might be best if the mother tells you what's been going on. I was like, we don't have that type of relationship. It's not been that type of relationship, because ever since I filed a report of the abuse that had happened on my child in 2021, the mom has been consistently retaliating against me at any chance she gets. So it's really just yes or no questions back and forth. It's not really a conversation to be had. You know, and that's no effort to me. Like, I've tried to be blunt, and I've tried to be loud to everyone to protect my child, prevent further harm to my child. And I do admit there are things that me and the mother do disagree on, but not to the point where I'm putting my child in danger that she has to worry about. I didn't know that this was transpiring. Okay, so fast forward to where I come to the court, here at Santa Clara County, and I informed the judiciary, Andrea Flynn, of all my concerns, and I say, hey, you know, me and the mom addressed it, and that we had to talk with him about it, and we coached him on his behaviors, and that I already forewarned the police, DFCS, now the courts, and my son's school. I had warned them about my petition. She was upset with the fact that basically I was sharing some of the DFCS reports with the school because the mom was complaining about it. I was like, this is my right to share my concern with these people who are in the control and security of my child to prevent further harm. I'm telling you that my child's acting out and you guys aren't hearing me. The mother said, the dad's never brought this up to my attention. The dad's basically lying. The only time that the dad ever mentions any real concern is that when she had to bring my child to the doctor to be seen for him continuously touching his penis. So there was no truth to what I was saying she was basically articulating. That turned out to be a fraud because I held up documents inside the court at the time basically stating like my facts that I was explaining, that me and the mother had addressed these in text messages long ago in October of 2020. These text messages state that me and the mother addressed this in October of 2020, where I addressed it to her first, stating, hey, my kid's been acting out a little strange, like talking back here and there, and basically acting out sexually, trying to touch people in their private parts, their pee-pee and butts, and saying pee-pee and butt frequently, etc. The mom responded 2 days later stating how she recognized it too in her home as well, and that she's going to keep an eye on it, monitor it, and basically talk to the child about his behaviors, and that she's kind of concerned too. And so both of us agreed, you know, in hopes that, you know, hopefully it's just that he's curious, right? And it wasn't until I brought it back up in December of 2020 when she was on the phone and I said, hey, we got to talk about this. And we deliberately asked him if somebody had been molesting our child. She even chimed in and helped coach our child, you know, back to back, where both of us were coaching him on these behaviors and not allowing him to basically allow someone to touch him, and specifically asking him if someone was, and that he could come to us if in case of that fact, like whenever he's open and ready to tell us, like it'll be okay and we'll be there to listen. So that was about like the only time that me and the mom have been able to come to like any mutual agreement, and that it was on mutual respect, that I even thanked her for it. And remember, following soon after this, in January of 2021, her ex-abusive boyfriend named Anthony David Shelton twisted my son's arm and then threw him in a room directly after we found out. So again, fast forward back again to all these scenarios. So in March of 2023, after Judiciary Andrea Flynn threw us out of court with no solution, it was discovered in April 24th of 2023 that my child and another peer were basically acting out sexually, fondling one another after one of the girls, or after two of the girls in my son's school, after two of the girls in my son's classroom had asked my son to basically expose himself sexually to them. And as he did, those girls went to the teacher, and the teacher went to the assistant principal, and the assistant principal went to the principal, who was well aware of my son's behaviors and my worry and concern at the time, who did nothing to basically prevent that, who did not monitor my child or nothing to prevent that. Fuck. It's so fucking hard. God. So on April 24th of 2023, when the sexual incident was identified, they waited a full day to contact I after forewarning them about my concerns of my son possibly being a victim of sexual abuse. They didn't call us until a full day later on April 25th around 3 p.m. to identify that this is what's going on and to inform us of their investigation at the time, which they did the prior day. And then we scheduled a sit down for that following day on April 26th of 2023. During that sit down, I informed Paul Slayton, I informed the principal, Ms. Catherine Armstrong, who are originally pre-forewarned, and I informed Ms. Matsuyamu, the assistant principal, and the mother, my son's mother, who will not be named, and my son's mother, about my concerns of my son's past history of him acting out sexually, and my concerns that my child may be a victim of sexual abuse too. And I also reiterated where I had informed the principal and informed the mom back in October of 2020 and December of 2020. We had to talk to him about it, and she basically said the father's lying right in front of their face, and Miss Armstrong was looking at her dumbfounded, because Miss Armstrong at the time had the text messages, proof of basically where me and the mom had acknowledged our son's past behaviors of sexuality, where she even acknowledged his response to me, where I'm saying he's touching people in their private parts and himself. So it already blew the mom's statement out of the water. So at this time, I acknowledged to the mom, hey, you need to basically comply. Everyone has broken the law and it's not okay. I'm not going to allow you guys to cover this up anymore. So I go and petition for emergency custody again, because the mom continued to lie, and she continued that lie, basically extending the truth, not completely denying that we actually acknowledge the child's behavior. She didn't know that there was 100% proof at the time, but she still decided to extend that truth. Even to this day, even though the truth came out, she's trying to extend it to where she's saying dad keeps on talking about his past sexual histories, which was not acknowledged. But the fact is, she already acknowledged it in court, that we both addressed it of his sexuality. And it's kind of crazy that she continues to do that, because she's hoping that a new judiciary hops on top of the case without foreknowledge of actual proof that's already been distributed to the court, that she in fact reciprocated, understanding that our child was touching himself and other people. But instead of actually understanding and analyzing fact, she decides to basically construe this even further, hoping that a new judiciary would hear it. But that's not the case, because we still have the current judiciary, who's Judiciary Lowney.